Well, the problem with that is a combustion engine is not going to function in that environment in a CO2 plume. So I told the gentleman, and very respectfully, thank you, but all you've done is send more firefighters now into the plume, and they're going to suffer. Okay? So if we have not put enough consideration into what we want to do and what we're going to do if there's a problem, then this is way too dangerous to continue on this path. The other thing is the pipelines. I know some of the people that came before me had already mentioned these things, but the pipelines are receptive to corrosive acid if the pipeline is not kept at constant temperature and pressure. People in the industry have told me it's impossible to keep it with constant temperature and pressure. I'm going off of hearsay. I don't know that. I've never been in the refining business to know that, but that's what I've been told. Maybe I can find out if that's true or not. But if they are subjected to carbonic acid, they're going to deteriorate quickly from the inside out. And if that occurs, they're going through a lot of water aquifers, as was mentioned earlier. They're going to contaminate the aquifer. If they're going through the lake, they're going to contaminate the lake. Then our lake is going to drain out the lake Pontchartrain into the Mr. Go. It's going to contaminate everything along the way. So I think the project is not being given enough consideration for the safety aspects or the lack of safety mitigation that could be caused from this. The other thing is the pipelines themselves. They're placing pipelines near neighborhoods, near schools, near playgrounds. This is a huge problem because they don't have the safety mitigations in place. You know, this is the same project. There's another project proposed not far from my home. And where this project is going in, they are going to, let me back up. Our rural volunteer fire departments do not have the assets to intervene in these situations. Are they going to pass out air packs to everyone to try to give you some way of trying to escape the plume? Whenever a leak does occur, no one can get in, no one's going to be able to get out. You know, it kind of reminds me back when, in the 80s when they said, if there's a nuclear war, you know, you just duct tape a plastic sheet and then seal the house up. Well, you know, that obviously wasn't really going to help. You know, so are we back to duct tape and plastic sheet? We need some reliable answers on how we're going to deal with the problems. And until we can have those, then I think that we should slow down, reevaluate, and try to find another logical solution for this. Now, I want to tell you, I'm just one person standing here in front, but our council in Livingston Parish just passed a resolution opposing any carbon capture projects in Livingston Parish. And is this project as well, because it is within Livingston Parish. I'd like to give y'all this to spin everything as well.
Which one?
I think we already have
I'm sorry. D cuts one page. Go ahead.
Okay, so the other issues that I was going to bring up, I think they've already been brought up, so I'll just scan through those really quick. And that was the endangered species that we have in our area. And I don't think that they're endangered. I think that they're threatened now. And Senator Wheat had hit on most of those. You know, we have a lot of fishermen, commercial fishermen. We have a lot of recreational boaters. We have a lot of people out on the lakes. And I can show you a picture of a mud boat going by my house last time it snowed in Louisiana. So just to give you an example, people are always on the lake. It's not just in the summer. It doesn't slow down in the winter. In the winter, they're going out there hunting on wildlife management areas and things of that nature. We have to have something in place to be able to warn people there's a danger. I I had suggested it previously, let's put some sort of aroma into the mixture like we do with natural gas. You know, this is the silent killer. And unless you have some sort of warning system to warn you there's a problem, there's nothing you can do to try to get out of that situation. I know that it was brought up one time, we can send out text messages. Well, that sounds fine if your phone's not dead or if it's not your children that are at the house that may not have a phone. There's just a lot of unknowns in a situation like that. We need solid, actionable things that we do to warn people on this. Because there will be a problem. It's not a matter of when, or it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So I appreciate y'all allowing me to talk to you, and thank you.
Our next speaker is Aaron Sandifer.
My name is Councilwoman Erin Sandifer. I serve on the Livingston Parish Council, District 5. My name is Councilwoman Erin Sandifer. I serve on the Livingston Parish Council, District 5. My address is 24411 Harris Lane, in Springs, Louisiana. Thank you for hosting this tonight. Thank you for hearing us. I want to say, in my parish, one person has told me that they're for carbon capture sequestration in my parish, and that was a lobbyist for carbon capture. Everybody else, unanimously, it is a unanimous no. The potential unknown safety issues are extremely alarming. I cannot even believe we are entertaining this. Councilman Dean Coates, I serve on the parish council with him, hosted a town hall meeting. I guess it was about a month ago, and I submitted a list of questions. I spoke and spoke the questions, and then I emailed the questions to him and the other elected officials that were at the meeting, and ultimately ended up sending it to State Representative Shane Mack, who serves in this district where this is being proposed. So I'm going to just read you the questions that I submitted. I can give you the letter on our letterhead that I submitted to him, or I can email them to you, whatever you, or both. So, all right, and you're not going to be able to answer them right now. I understand that, but I do need to go on record to ask them. How do you monitor eruptions within the barrier of contaminants coming in? What is the environmental plan of action if a well or pipeline erupts? What is the environmental plan of action if the pipeline ruptures and releases contaminants into our ecosystem, water, land, humans, and animals? How much funding has been set aside in the event of such a contingency occurs? What is the official protocol for handling such contingencies? What materials are the proposed pipes coated with? How deep will the pipeline be buried beneath our parish population, residences, businesses, water, and land? What are the long-term risk factors for erosion or puncture of the pipeline or related structures? What company or companies have been selected to perform the work? What is the experience and safety record of those selected companies? What is the anticipated life cycle of the pipeline, wells, and associated equipment? What inspection agency or agencies will oversee both the installation and ongoing upkeep of the pipeline? Which agency or agencies are responsible for approving each stage of the installation process? What safety guidelines and security protocols would be in place to prevent or respond to a potential terrorist attack on carbon capture pipelines, wells, or any related infrastructure? And as you know, they do go after our pipelines. In the event of a terrorist attack on carbon capture pipelines, what coordinated response plan would be implemented to ensure public safety and environmental protection? Thank you very much for hearing me and letting me speak. I can submit this to you and online. Thank you.
next speaker is Larry Soror Jr. Sorry if I butchered your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Soror Jr. I reside at 502 Highway 18, Edgar, Louisiana, 70049. I want to thank y'all for allowing us to have this hearing, and I want to thank the St. John Parish Council for putting a resolution in to deny carbon capture in St. John Parish. I served 4 years on the Parish Council. In my 4 years, we spent thousands of dollars. The taxpayers of St. John Parish spent thousands of dollars keeping our 3 wells in Ruddock in good shape. They had good, clean drinking water. I think it's ridiculous to even bring a plan like this to Lake Marlboro. Not even talk about the wildlife and the quality of life that we have in this lake. The people of St. John Parish want good, clean water. Putting CO2 into the ground is not the best thing to do. I suggest you find a place in Nevada in the desert where the milk can grow, you can go over there.
Our next speaker is Timothy Brooks.
Address is 21743 Waterfront East Drive, Norfolk, Louisiana. I'm up here to oppose this totally, and I would like to do something. Everybody raise their hand that's opposed to this.
All right.
Everybody's opposed to this. I've been living on a tributary now for 15 years, but this particular tributary goes into the lake. We've recreated in it, which includes boating, skiing, fishing, crabbing, everything you can think of out here. There's nothing more beautiful than coming out of Vine River and looking at that lake out here, and it's just a beautiful sight. And I see on here where they say, you know, that these won't be that noticeable. Well, I beg your pardon. When I come out of the Vine River right there, I can see all the way, I can see the bridge over there on a clear day. And where they put these structures in, I'll be able to see one of them when I come out of the river. The other one, if you go over to the pass, you're going to see it because it's going to be sitting right in front of the pass. And to me, that's just unacceptable to take this peaceful place and turn it into an industrial corridor. Like I said, we lived here. This is our home that they're putting us in our backyard. And I don't think there's nobody that wants to go out on the lake and look at a platform out there. If they're going to look at a platform, we go to the Gulf of Mexico and look at it out there. But anyway, there's some things that you know, they brought up all the environmental stuff, first responder stuff, and Dean's very, very much right. You run into a plume of this stuff, if you don't die, you're going to be very, very lucky because nothing's going to run in it. You can't go in it till it's gone unless you have an air pack on. So whoever's running across the lake and runs into a plume of this stuff is probably going to die. So another thing that nobody brought up is the impact on our property values. Our property values. When you go to sit in your house, you're going to have to list this on there. This could happen. And I don't want that. I just built my house. I've been living out here for 15 years. I've been using this place for all my life. And I don't want this out here, period. So I'm opposed to it, and I hope everybody in this room and everybody in the state are opposed to it also. And I appreciate y'all coming out here and letting us speak. I think that's about all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Salvatore Wilson. Salvador's.
Salvador Nicolosi, 3607 Highway 190 West, Hammond, Louisiana, 7041, Tangier Parish, resident. I'm here representing myself, and I want to thank all our representatives from Tangier Parish that came here and expressed the opinion of other people of Tangier Parish. One thing about Tangier Parish I found is that it's a very, very beautiful place to be living in. You go out to Lake Norfolk, you don't find any better. I don't care where you go. The waterway is beautiful. I remember seeing people go out there, they rose for the 4th of July and put down barbecue pits in the lake Norfolk. And they had 40, 50, 100 boats out there. People barbecuing and swimming. Why would we want to take that away? That just don't make sense. You know, money is valuable to who? We don't really know. All I know is I'm 82 years old. I got great grandchildren. I got great grandchildren now. And I want to see them enjoy the same thing in Tangier Parish, mainly Lake Norfolk and Lake Pontchartrain. It's a beautiful place to be living in, and Manchac area is so unique. Why would we want to jeopardize that? It just don't make sense. All I can say one thing is I'm hoping that the Corps of Engineers really look at this seriously and think about the people and the parishes that are being represented here. We also have, you know, people who are going to oppose it naturally, but you always have, you know, people on the end looking for something for themselves out there. I mean, I've heard so many things about this situation that we've focused on at the moment. So all I'm saying is, let's keep the parishes that are involved, the rivers that we enjoy, and let's keep it safe for all the people to enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. John Hoover.
John Hoover, 11489, Louisiana. As I said, I'm John Hoover, a Louisiana resident and full-time commercial fisherman in Lake Norfolk Basin. I have been in the blue crab fishery for over 35 years. I have serious concerns that the proposed Air Products carbon capture sequestration project in Lake Norfolk will have lasting negative impacts on the Lake Norfolk and the blue crab fishery. The location of these wells and pipelines are in the middle of the blue crab fishing grounds that I have fished for many years. Blue crabs migrate to Lake Norfolk to feed, breed, and grow. Blue crabs migrate to these particular grounds in Lake Norfolk because they hold Rangean clam beds which provide a food source that attract fish and blue crabs. Losing access to these productive crabbing grounds will have negative impacts on the blue crab fishery and all fishermen who use them. Also, there are the concerns of the construction of wells and pipelines which become navigation hazards, especially during fall seasons. After all these years fishing in Lake Norfolk, I now have to address the fears of driving into foggy conditions on Lake Norfolk, wondering if it's either fog or a CO2 rupture. Lake Norfolk is a small estuary and susceptible to the most subtle changes. South Pass Manchac connects Lake Norfolk to Lake Pontchartrain, and any negative impacts in Lake Norfolk could also have negative impacts on Lake Pontchartrain. The EPA recognizes Lake Norfolk as an estuarine water body for 303D Impairment and Clean Water Act programs. Classifying Lake Norfolk as an estuary adds important environmental protections, including greater federal and state interest under the Clean Water Act, Zone Management Act and NEPA. Emphasis on public trust doctrine due to its ecological productivity and public use. This is a stronger case for a mandatory environmental impact statement, which major dredging and industrial activity is proposed, like the carbon capture injection dredging project. Lake Marpaw is not merely a shallow lake. It is a living estuary where the lifeblood of our freshwater rivers meets the rhythms of the Gulf. To treat it as an expendable industrial waste space violates every principle of sound environmental stewardship and the public trust doctrine. Lake Marpaw is a living, breathing thing. It is an important economic engine for Southeast Louisiana. Lake Marpaw is our liquid therapy to many. It is a way of life. It is a way of life for me and my fellow fishermen.
Thank you, Mr. Rudna? Sorry?
My name is Al Sterling. Address is 12348 River Islands, Santa Ana, Louisiana. I'm here to oppose any CCS and or even production of hydrogen. 2 years ago, in 22, one of the first public hearings was held in Livingston Parish at the Council of Chambers. Air Products presented their plan, and they presented parameters in which they used to select Lake Marpaw, and they weren't going to be within 2 miles of fault lines, 2 miles of old well heads, so on and so forth. Sounded pretty impressive. But to my knowledge, what has happened since is they've reduced all of these parameters to minimums now. And I was told to follow the science, that it's a safe product. Well, I've been following the science ever since, and there's nothing safe about CO2. The gentleman that just spoke alluded to going into a fog and wondering whether it was a CO2 eruption or if it was just fog. Let me say this, you're not going to have to worry about that because it's odorless, it's colorless, and it weighs more than air, so you're not going to be able to even wonder what you're going into, okay? The other thing too is in following the science, I haven't seen any science that supports that you can maintain something that is under pressures from 2,000 to 3,500 pounds of pressure. I haven't seen the science yet that supports that it can be maintained forever.
All right.
Sequestration is forever. And once it's there, it's not going away. So
Nothing is forever.
I think all these people here feel a lot the same that I do. I worked all my life to live on the waterways. My property values are going to be cut in half if I'm lucky. And not to mention the fact that I hear a siren in the middle of the night, and there's been a flume that has occurred in Lake Marpaw. And so I used my air pack that was hopefully supplied by Air Products, and I get on my electric scooter that hopefully was provided by Air Products, and I try to outrun this atrocity. So, having said that, thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Lisa Coker.
Hi, my name is Lisa Cochran, and I live at 32011 T-Mobile Plaza, Springfield, Louisiana. First off, I have a notice, an affidavit that I'd like
5 days?
I think so.
Thank you. Continue.
Okay, and in the affidavit it says, affidavit exercise authority not granted to government concerning proposed commerce and trespass of people's right to regulate internal government for the people's benefit. Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. Please take notice, this is in reference to Class 6 wells used for carbon capture sequestration on public land, Lake Warpaw, and parishes surrounding the lake. Affidavit Lisa Cochran, one of the people, as seen in the Louisiana Constitution of Article 1, Section 1, Republican form. Surrey jurors do serve you, David Morris, of United States Army Corps of Engineers, Dustin Davis, Louisiana Department of Energy and Natural Resources, in this court of record to make the following claims that you and your agent take good care. Affidavit claims that government only has granted powers over subject matters in the Constitution, and that all other powers remain with the people. Government cannot create powers outside the granted powers by people in the Constitution, not even through rulemaking and enacted legislation. Furthermore, people are a gift from God with unlimited, unquestionable, and particular rights, which cannot be taken away. The right to assemble for the common good, peace, safety, and welfare to regulate their internal government is one of the reserved and guaranteed common law rights of the people. These rights are secure in the highest law, being all 50 state constitutions and the Constitution of the United States of America. Such rights being reserved to the people and exempted out or set apart from the government. Use of authority by government not granted in the Constitution, such as the identification of authorized uses of property the government believes will benefit the people, is a trespass of my rights and an injury. This is common law action. An affidavit claims that all trustees in government have a fiduciary responsibility to protect my property, life, liberty, interest, and pursuit of happiness, including the right to regulate internal government for the people's benefit. Can I keep going? All right. See evidence below. Louisiana Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, Inherent Rights. All government of right originates with the people, is founded on their will alone, is instituted to protect the rights of individuals and the good of the whole. Its only legitimate end are to secure justice for all, preserve peace, protect rights, and promote happiness and general welfare of the people. The rights enumerated in this article are inalienable by the state and shall be preserved if violated by the state. Maxim of law. It would be idle and try to say that no right is absolute. Maxim of law. Law is a rule of right, and whatever is contrary to the rule of right is an injury. Maxim of law. Punishment is due if the words of an oath be false. Maxim of law. Remedies are the life of rights. Please take final notice that if you disagree with any of the above claims reviewed by sworn affidavit under penalty of perjury, point by point, to the affidavits addressed below within 5 days, or you agree to tacit appreciation that all is true and law, and shall remain forever a part of this court of record, and shall be heard by the arbitrator of my choice, and that you are acting with full knowledge of inherent malice against one of the people. You also agree that the matter is forever settled. All responses not sworn under penalty of perjury are considered non-responses. An agent or attorney under contract who suppresses this affidavit agrees to pay $100,000. Furthermore, continues exercise of authority not granted in the Constitution or violent of affidavit's rights will incur a fee of $500,000 per infraction on receipt of this affidavit.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
James Brooks. Are we 22 roll call?
I'm right.
Get it close.
My name is James Brooks. I live at 22951 Highway 22 in Marlboro. I didn't come here to offend anybody. I hired in and went to work in Anaheim this morning plant in Donaldsonville in October of 1979. I spent 34 years of my life making Anaheim this morning. According to our research, the first ammonia plant came online around 1913, and CO2 has been an emission problem since. We always get it straight to the atmosphere at 6 pounds of pressure through 28 pounds. And we have a problem with acid rain. If you've ever asked yourself where acid rain comes from, is when rain comes through the atmosphere in a CO2-rich environment, and it forms carbonic acid. And it will drop the pH of the tributary. When President Obama was in, he passed the Clean Air Act, which cited emissions through the EPA, and it was under the guise of global warming. My first question would be, why Lake Marlboro? It's the least populated area around here, and when a catastrophic event happens, it'll be the less awful lot. When CO2 hits the water, we have a leak from this column, pipeline. When pH gets down to 5.0 in the water, it will no longer sustain life. Aquatic life. Your fish, your oysters, all that seafood industry, everything that comes out of Lake Marlboro, Lake Pontchartrain, and possibly the Gulf of Mexico is going to be gone. The first thing they told us was this was perfectly safe. That was the first lie they told us. And if you have to build this business on lies, you have problems. Last year, my family and I drilled a well on our property. We put a purifier on it, and about 2 weeks after the well was drilled, I sent samples off to Florida, and I paid $500 to have a baseline on my well. And I can furnish it if I need to, but the sad part about it is the CO2 corrupts an aquifer. By the time you find out, it's going to be too late. There's no going back. The catastrophic failure I mentioned is not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. I've seen scheduled pipe, 1/4 inch thick, within 2 years with CO2 going through it, at a pressure of less than 5 pounds, go to razor blade thin. It has to be replaced every 2 years. There's no way you can tell me this is simple. Now we also got about Grand Bayou, the Bayou Cone, where 54 acres is swallowed up by the earth. We have those same fault lines in this area. It's very, very corrosive. And if it's so safe, why don't you inject it where you make it?
Thank you.
Come again?
Next speaker is Jerry Brown.
so it's conceivable that our people are there on that property as well. In St. John Baptist Parish, the tourism industry is very strong. The visitors who visited here spent $80 million in spending alone. We have $2 billion in local and state and local taxes. That saves each resident $1,135 in taxes. Yet we are supporting a project, and we want us to support a project that would cost $6.5 billion in subsidies. With the 200 employees that were mentioned previously, that would mean that we paid $31.5 million per employee in 12 years. Now, I know we bragged about a good salary, but it's not that good. So, we cannot damage the culture and heritage of Louisiana. It's more than just about tourism dollars. It's also about our health. We live in Cancer Alley, St. John Baptist Parish, the highest risk of cancer in the country, along with other ailments such as asthma, heart disease, anxiety. It does not make any sense for us to put more pollution in our area when we know our area is struggling right now. I would like to ask the audience, how many of you know somebody who has cancer? So does it make sense to put more pollution in communities that are already suffering so much? I end with saying that conservation does not mean conserve. Minimize does not mean minimum. Leader in industry safety does not mean safe. So you can look at the back of our cars and look at our license plate. It does not say ammonia paradise. It does not say hydrogen paradise. It says sportsman paradise. Our elected officials go around the world selling our heritage and culture. They go to Germany, they go to China, they go to London. In fact, there's a yearly parade, the Rose Bowl, where Louisiana has a float bragging about the culture of our state. I oppose the project, and I least request an IES to examine the health and the culture impact of the project. Thank you.
Carly Neal.
I'm here against this project, and the gentleman, the first gentleman that came up to speak, I believe the only room that's for this, talked about how that this would be incentivizing the fact that Louisiana leads in energy. We've been leading for a long time. That means nothing to us anymore because we also lead in poverty. We also are one of the lowest in education, so that doesn't mean anything anymore. And the 2,000 jobs that he spoke of, when they come in with these jobs, you can go to the campsites down here and you can find license plates from
That's right.
Alabama.
Other come on, baby. Yes.
200 jobs is nothing. 200 jobs is nothing. The other thing is that they use selective science to present to y'all and then try to send over to us, and I guess they think that we're just so uneducated because that's the way we're rated, that we can't read. For every
That's right.
Just regular fracking will set off earthquakes. These are going to be much more higher pressure, go much deeper into the ground. And there's no way that they're going to admit that any earthquake that went off caused cracked roads, caused a leak, or anything else. They're not going to admit that it was their fault, and there will be no way to prove it because we already have earthquakes here. And there are court cases where the EPA has been found in violation of substantive due process by using basically selective silence.
Thank you. Shamara Levine Davey.
Hello, my name is Shamara Levine Davey of Rice, St. James, Louisiana. My address is 42211 Park Drive, Sorrento, Louisiana, 70778. Thank you for allowing me a chance to express my concerns and thoughts on the Air Products carbon capture pipeline. The Air Products carbon capture pipeline, if built, will be within a half mile of a primary school and within 1 mile of residential subdivisions. As we all know, carbon dioxide is dangerous and pipelines do burst, and I'm 100% against the Army Corps of Engineers approving this dangerous pipeline to be built near human beings, homes, and children's schools.
All right.
The only safe place for a dangerous pipeline is where no one lives. If you disagree with me, I request that Air Products builds this pipeline a half a mile away from where their kids go to school.
Hey.
And
Okay,
1
come
mile
on.
from their house. Carbon capture sequestration is an experiment. And I think since it is an experiment, we should first test it out in the neighborhood of the Air Products owners and the CEOs. We can see how that goes, and then we can come back to the table to discuss it. I also request that if the Army Corps chooses to approve this pipeline, that the images of each person at the Army Corps be permanently placed near this pipeline, that future generations can put a face with the name.
Yes.
At the time when an incident occurs. I have a couple of questions quickly that need answers. For the school and the homes located near the pipeline, has Air Products equipped the school and the homes with proper PPE equipment in times of a pipeline erupting? Will students have to shelter in place if that pipeline bursts? Has emergency services been trained on what to do in the times of an eruption? Army Corps, you have the option to choose life or death, people or profit, right or wrong. The people are watching you, Louisiana is watching you, America is watching you, the world is watching you. I look forward to being able to say that Army Corps did the right thing. There are still good people who can hold office. Again, the only safe place for this pipeline is where no one lives. Thank you.
Thank you. John Diaz. John Diaz. John Diaz. Lauren Sagnadine. Lauren Sagnadine.
results of the task force work. Why? Could it be that they didn't get the answers they wanted? Or are they holding off long enough for some projects to get permits, then release the findings once it's too late? With no answer to this question, why the report hasn't been released, it can only leave room for speculation. And actually, there was the conservation commissioner was there, and she said the three principles of the Office of Conservation were: one, to maintain Louisiana's identity as sportsman's paradise; two, to maintain Louisiana's cultural identity; and three, to become a global market or something. I'm going strictly on memory from 2 years ago. But again, why hasn't the task force released these findings? Lake Maurepas is struggling, as was mentioned in the 2024 study by Southeastern. Air Products plans to erect platforms measuring 75 to 100 feet above the surface in the lake. Not only will this forever negatively change the aesthetics of the beautiful Louisiana treasure that we have in it, but it will create many dangerous hazards for boaters, especially at night or during low visibility conditions. Please do not issue this or any permit which allows CCS in Lake Maurepas and the surrounding swamp area. There are no benefits, only risk to those who call this area home. And as a side note, I have to ask, would Air Products proceed on this project without the 45Q tax credits?
Nope.
I don't
Nope.
think so. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity.
Ray Rexon. After Mr. Gregson, our next speaker is Katie Jenkins, if you want to come up and be ready.
Expected to provide an estimated $4.5 billion in economic impact statewide, $370 million in tax revenue during construction, and $24 million each year thereafter. That's money that helps fund local schools, roads, and services we all rely on. Livingston, St. John the Baptist, and Tangipahoa will share approximately 70 to 160 million in injection revenues for the life of the project. And Air Products is committing $1 million every year through the Lake Maurepas Community Fund, on top of $4.5 million already invested across Louisiana, including $260,000 to expand southeastern Louisiana's extended scholars for our local students. The record shows the company co-located lines along existing corridors when practical, using horizontal directional drilling at major crossings beneath the Maurepas diversion, trains workers in environmental practices, and employs inspectors to ensure compliance. Where construction temporarily disturbs wetlands, vegetation, and soils are to be restored to pre-existing conditions, the permanent footprint of Lake Maurepas is extremely small and on the order of roughly half an acre. The facility will produce low carbon hydrogen and permanently sequester more than 5 million metric tons of CO2 per year for approximately 25 years. A globally significant CCS deployment that lets our industries stay competitive while reducing emissions. In short, jobs, investment, and guardrails for our environment and leadership role for Louisiana is the next generation energy. On behalf of local employers and working families, I respectfully request approval of the requested permits. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Katie Jenkins.
Put it by your
Ms.
house.
Jenkins, our next speaker will
Put
be
it by your
Laura
children's school then.
Uris.
How you like
Please
that?
be ready.
That's right.
My name is Katie Jenkins. My address is
That's
214
real.
Forest Lane, Ponchatoula, Louisiana, and I'm opposed to this. And for the gentleman that just left, in case you're not listening, we're not here about the money. We're here about our lifestyle.
Come on, there you go, girl. Red.
Three generations that's grown up on the Tangipahoa River, and we now have a family camp on the North Pass. They touched about the sediments on the river. On the pass, gonna change. It's already been touched about, the crabs wintering in the lake, and what blows my mind is how this lake was given up, because our shrimpers cannot shrimp in Lake Walpole because it's a shrimp sanctuary. They have to go into Lake Pontchartrain or somewhere else out on the coast. They cannot touch this because it is a shrimp sanctuary. Don't know how that was given up. Hurricane Ida picked up a 60-foot diameter rooted cypress tree that pushed our camp and deposited it into the middle of Jones Island. Who will tell the cypress trees to go around the wells during a hurricane? My 92-and-a-half-year-old father could tell you about the area, and he's still alive. He would be here tonight if he could. He'd tell you about the area, what it used to look like before the cypress trees were harvested. It was thought that this area could be replanted and it would recover. He would tell you that he cries when he looks at the state of the marshlands now, and it doesn't need further stress as it would never come back. Myself, my father, my family, my neighbors, everybody demands a mandatory EIS testing before any more permits are issued. In May, we host one of the largest poker runs that's known. There's boats from Canada, Washington, that all run across this lake for 4 nights. These people are slightly intoxicated. They don't know they don't know these wells are going to be here. Who's going to stop them from running slap into a platform? My 4.5-year-old grandson can make his own hook, reel in his own fish, and I want his grandson to be able to do the same. And I would also like for sequestration, I can't say the word sequestration. I'd like for that to be taken out of the negotiations. I would like for this to just be saying it's being dumped into the bottom of Lake Walpole.
All right. Yes, there you go.
And our next speaker is Cynthia Rama Chipandre.
I'm Honora Harris. I'm a Century Parish resident, 3700 Fort White Road, Berryville. Also owns a property on the Shenandoah River, which is probably contaminated with Smitty's float and stuff. I agree with everything everybody except the economic development guy said, but I mainly want to speak about the Marble Swamp and the cypress trees and the conservation lands and the projects that are being impacted. I retired from Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority 4 years ago, and 2 of the projects that I spent the last 10 years of my working life there were the Coastal Forest Conservation Initiative, which used funds that were for mitigation of offshore oil impacts onshore by the SEAC program to acquire we acquired over 30,000 acres in the Marble Swamp to be set aside for conservation. This was in response, this program was primarily in response to the concerns of harvesting to grind up cypress trees for mulch, which is no longer allowed. In addition to that project, I also worked on the Marble Swamp diversion, the river reintroduction Marble Swamp project, which was partnering with the Corps of Engineers, EPA, the state took on for a while. It's ultimately being funded by money to mitigate impacts from the BP oil spill. The properties, all of the properties in the WMA that this crosses are all properties that were set aside for conservation, not to be used as industrial dumping grounds. Just the fact that they're even considering this as illegal. Say that a mitigation project on the other side of the lake that is a very questionable value. I speak as a biologist, botanist, studied swamps most of my career. They are destroying, permanently destroying, even according to the Office of Coastal Management and Air Products own evaluation, high quality cypress. It will not grow back where this pipeline is. It will run at the toe of the brand new levee that the Corps is building right now, so it could run risk of having a super highway of storm surge like Mr. Go did, as well as saltwater intrusion deep in the part of the swamp. Runs right to the monitoring area for adaptive management of the diversion, which is also being used as mitigation for the levee. So all this talk about, well, we're going to put some mitigation on the other side of the lake, we're going to plant a few trees. That area has saltwater intrusion. Those trees are probably not going to survive because the diversion's not reached that far. So I submitted earlier a lengthy report on the initial permit application. And that's in the record.
Thank you, Cynthia Ramachandran, and after her, Tish Taylor.
Hello, thank you for granting this hearing. My name is Cynthia Ramachandran. I'm a staff scientist at Earthworks. My address or office address is 900 Camp Street, New Orleans. I've lived and worked in Louisiana, coastal Louisiana, for nearly 15 years. Air Products is proposing a carbon dioxide pipeline that would run 38 miles across multiple parishes, near homes and communities. Carbon dioxide pipelines are currently under-regulated and have been known to rupture such that the highly pressurized carbon dioxide bursts into the air and displaces the oxygen in an invisible cloud, as we saw in Satartia, Mississippi in 2020, where more than 40 people were sent to the hospital. Carbon dioxide, as was mentioned, has no smell, no color, and even if you add an odorant, by the time you smell it, it's probably too late. It can be really, really harmful in high concentrations. And yet, Air Products did not provide any modeling or risk assessment for potential breaks in the pipeline. So, Earthworks retained a pipeline modeling expert to simulate what could happen if the proposed pipeline ruptures near the school, which is only half a mile from where the pipeline would be, and the surrounding Orange Grove neighborhood, the Sorrento Primary School. And we also added that if the valves were optimistically shut off as soon as the leak was detected, so just 5 minutes after the rupture. The results show that under typical operations and weather conditions for that area, the school buildings and the nearby homes would be covered by high concentrations of carbon dioxide within about 10 minutes and cover the area for up to an hour before dispersing. The amount of released CO2 could exceed worker safety health standards and cause shortness of breath, dizziness, increased heart rate and blood pressure, and in some situations, headaches or unconsciousness. And these symptoms could be especially severe for young children, such as the students of Sorrento Primary, simply because they're closer to the ground. They're shorter, and that's where the CO2 accumulates. Also, they have smaller lungs. And because the oxygen is displaced, vehicles for evacuation or emergency response, as was mentioned by a couple folks, could struggle to operate until the CO2 goes away. The CO2 plume goes away. And this is with the conservative assumption that the leak is actually shut off after only 5 minutes. The longer it takes to actually shut off the valves, the more CO2 escapes and the health impacts become worse. As far as I know, Air Products does not have experience with CO2 pipelines. Also, we've heard from their shareholder meetings, which is public, that they plan to sell off the CCS components. So we don't actually know who would actually build and operate this CO2 pipeline. The potential health impacts are just too great to ignore. This project can be really dangerous for these communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Tish Taylor. After Ms. Taylor, Logan Wolf.
Good evening, Tish Taylor, 414 Orange Loop, Oklahoma, Louisiana. I'm a lifelong resident of St. John Baptist Parish. First, I'd like to start with just some facts about St. John Baptist Parish. We have the highest risk of cancer in the United States. That's just from one chemical. Well, to chloroquine and ethylene oxide. We are number 1 in the United States for the petrochemical industries not hiring the people that live in the communities where they are. Facts. We get no justice. We have no economic development. The infrastructure along the river road where these petrochemical industries are located, we're still flooding because our ditches are overflowing. There's no proper drainage, so there is no economic development for infrastructure. Our education system is garbage. That's the nicest way I can say about it. It's garbage. Our children are learning nothing, and they're poor. We had the highest death rate per capita of from COVID, in the United States of America. This parish had more people die from COVID per capita in March and April of 2020 than the entire United States of America. And they said it's because we have a veterans home. Nowhere, there's no other veterans home in the country, obviously. We have PFAS in our water. We have plastic in our bodies. My community is dying. My mom suffered 22 years from cancer and other diseases. My sister takes infusions every Saturday of her life. She is 58 years old. She has no quality of life. My brother is in and out of the hospital for kidney disease since he was 3 years old. He is 60. We have no quality of life. We have a beautiful walking path along the river on our levee. And the views are beautiful of lights and pipes and flames flickering. The noise is unbelievable. Everything is unbearable. There's barges on the river, and we are dying. That's the beginning of your late dying. What we are living now is coming if you do not stop it now. I want you to know, on October 23rd, I was at a gravesite, my family's gravesite, visiting. And our family's gravesite is totally surrounded by marathon. So we have to go through the fence, through their property. While I was there, their security came and told us that we had to evacuate. They were evacuating the employees. It was dangerous. There was a leak at a plant, and we had to evacuate. I was sick that night. It was never, ever, we don't know what the chemical was. It was just swept under the rug. Nothing matters once it's in. They lie about everything, and we die. This will affect, the pipeline will affect our airport, our DMV, the Council on Aging Senior Center, the Louisiana National Guard, the Retired Veterans Home, Regala Park, where our children play ball, and we have the line dance classes, RPCC, so our students, Lighthouse Church, and the Reserve Canal. Everything along the airline, north of the airline, will be affected. No oxygen. Our senior citizens and our veterans retirements, they are compromised already. They will go down for a nap and never wake up because there's no oxygen. No one will be able to come and save them because there's no oxygen. CO2 is a death sentence to everything in our community. We don't want it anymore. We're not thriving right now in St. John Parish. We never will. And not one plant, community chamber, whatever the name is back there, not one plant has done it yet, and it never, ever will.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Earthworks.
I mainly say that to say, I've had to do yours. I primarily organize folks in Ascension Parish, specifically in the neighborhoods that would be directly affected by this project. They plan to build a 700-acre site near Sorrento Primary School, which folks have already talked about, on what once was the Orange Grove Plantation. It's only a half a mile from Sorrento Primary School, and the Orange Grove subdivision would literally be on the fence line of the plant. Other residential subdivisions that are close, within a mile to this proposed plan, would be Sugar Mill, Ascension Trace, River Ridge, Pelican Crossing, Pelican Point. The plan would affect so much the quality of life, and definitely decrease property values. I've talked to so many people who are either preparing to sell or who are selling
because of this project. The noise, the lights, the odors, especially from ammonia, from the plant, that would operate 24/7, by the way, would impact the quality of life. 2 160-foot boilers and 7 industrial flares, ranging in height from about 145 feet to 220 feet tall, would be visible for miles around. The flaring event would produce a large flame, sometimes accompanied by smoke plumes, along with noise and vibrations. I don't think that that's a quality of life for people who would live near this facility. So, some of the information that we've had to give community, because Air Products refuses, is there are several air pollutants that come with this facility, including particulate matter. In their permit, they seek to add 31.5 tons per year of PM 2.5. That's very fine soot that you can breathe in. And add another 42.54 tons per year of PM 10. That's a much larger particulate matter. And it gets into your body, your bloodstream, and it impairs your immune system. It has effects of dizzying and heart attacks and strokes and lung cancer. Other impacts are smog and ammonia. As you can see, there's just so many things to talk about with this facility, and it's not in the public interest.
Thank you. Harrison Gates. Next speaker is Caitlin Hunter.
Good evening. My name is Harrison Gates, resident of New Orleans, 1100 Poitras, New Orleans, 70163. I'm here on behalf of Greater New Orleans, Inc., the regional economic development organization representing the 10 southeast parishes of Louisiana. I appreciate the opportunity to share our support for Air Products Louisiana Clean Energy Complex and its permanent applications. This project represents a multi-billion-dollar investment in our state and a major opportunity for local businesses and communities across our region. This complex will create 2,000 construction jobs and 200 permanent jobs, generating lasting benefits for our residents and our economy.
Say a new line.
The Louisiana Clean Energy Complex is not only an economic catalyst, it's a smart investment in the future. It will contribute more than $4.5 billion to the state's economy and generate nearly $370 million in tax revenue during construction, plus another $24 million in the years following. These dollars will directly support schools, public works, and community services across Livingston, St. John, and Tangipahoa parishes. Beyond economics, this project advances Louisiana's all-of-the-above energy strategy, reinforcing our leadership in low-carbon hydrogen production and clean energy innovation. It leverages our world-class infrastructure, skilled workforce, and deep industrial expertise to make Louisiana a national and global hub for hydrogen and carbon management technologies. For these reasons, GNO Inc. supports the permits for this project. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Caitlin Hunter. After Ms. Hunter is Corinne Dell.
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Hunter. I live at 3005 Magazine Street, New Orleans, 70115. I work as the Director of Research and Policy and an attorney at Rise St. James, Louisiana. First, I want to thank you to the elected representatives tonight for speaking about the need for an EIS and everybody else who has. RISE has requested that the Army Corps of Engineers conduct a programmatic environmental impact statement, or PEIS, taking a holistic look at all of the projects planned for this region: hydrogen, ammonia, CCS, planned for the Pontchartrain and Barataria basins, and we do so again this evening. A PEIS is necessary to consider the cumulative effects of the many planned ammonia, hydrogen, and CO2 projects throughout Ascension, St. James, St. John, Tangipahoa, Livingston, and other parishes. For example, the CO2 pipeline route for CF Industries' Blue Point ammonia plant in Modest hasn't been included in this application. It would pass just over a mile from the pipeline for Air Products.
sandwiching in the Tulare neighborhood, the roundabout at Highway 22 and 70, and the busy interchange of Highway 22 and I-10. The pipeline route would destroy wetlands that are earmarked as mitigation by other projects. The Army Corps permits are not currently considering other reasonably foreseeable CCS infrastructure when evaluating a given permit, and they must. NEPA requires the Army Corps to consider the cumulative environmental effects of past, present, and reasonably foreseeable future actions in an environmental impact statement. Courts have found that the Army Corps and other agencies have an affirmative duty to locate, describe, and consider other projects that could have cumulative impacts when combined with the project under consideration. And an EIS must not only give a sufficiently detailed catalog of past, present, and future projects, but it must also provide adequate analysis about how these projects and differences between the projects are thought to have impacted the environment. With more CCS-related projects announced seemingly every week, we are asking the Army Corps to pause approval of permits and acceptance of new applications, including this one, to thoroughly consider the cumulative impact of at least 11 CCS-related facilities and at least 80 injection wells.
Our next speaker is Marion Penny Frostad.
Hello, good evening. Thank you. My name is Corinne Van Dalen. I am a senior attorney with Earth Justice, resident of Louisiana for 25 years. My address is 900 Camp Street, New Orleans. Representing Earthworks, Lake Morval Preservation Society, Rise St. James, Louisiana, Concerned Citizens of St. John, Healthy Gulf, and Sierra Club. Not to repeat what has already been said tonight, I'm just going to make 3 quick points. It was already alluded to, but I just want to say again, more specifically, that last spring, Air Products announced that it is no longer planning to go through with much of this project. That is the carbon dioxide pipeline, sequestration facility, the ammonia plant, the marine terminal, and instead is hoping to find buyers for these components. So we don't know who's ultimately going to be building any of this, any of the permits. Air Products said that there will be no new spending commitments on this project while it pursues the de-risking strategy, that's what they call it. And it had given itself until the end of this year to consider its options. So this is in limbo, this whole project, in terms of we don't know if there is a buyer or what's going to happen. When Air Products announced its de-risking strategy to its shareholders and media, it said it is facing difficult changes as it returns to its traditional business model of producing industrial gases such as hydrogen and moves away from, quote, complex, higher risk projects. So even Air Products considers this to be a very risky project. Further, the project may never proceed since Air Products has made clear that it needs off-take agreements, it needs buyers for the hydrogen before it goes forward. And the hydrogen is the one part that Air Products says it's going to actually handle. But analysts say that the main challenge right now is finding buyers for that so-called low carbon or blue hydrogen. It's more expensive. And we have not heard of any off-take agreements for this. So going forward with review of Air Products' application at this time would waste significant federal and state resources, since the proposed project is now merely a speculative endeavor. The other couple of points I want to make is we've heard both in Air Products' statement, I believe in its environmental assessment statement, and also we heard from the gentleman tonight, that this project isn't going to take up much room in Lake Morval, that it's only whatever acres, or its whole percent of the project is just some small percent of all of Lake Morval. But imagine 19 billboards, right, placed throughout Lake Morval. And now imagine that those
Thank you. After Ms. Brostad, Renee Harrell.
Good evening. My name is Marion Freistad, and I go by Penny. I live at 1539 Adams Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70118. I am not representing any organization. I'm speaking as a private citizen. I hold a PhD in molecular biology and 2 master's degrees, including one in environmental science, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am speaking in opposition to the proposed permit for Air Products CCS plant. CCS is a false solution to the climate crisis. It probably won't work. It is energy intensive, thereby counterproductive, and is, as we've heard, dangerous and expensive. Moreover, it perpetuates the obsolete fossil fuel system. The current proposal, if approved, will be detrimental to one of the last pristine wetlands in Louisiana, the Maurepas Swamp. In addition to its aesthetic and recreational value, wetlands are critical ecological areas. They filter water, they serve as flood reserves, they are habitat for wildlife, and they stabilize the shoreline. Although we often don't think about wetlands, they are critical and have economic impact in maintaining life on this planet. As has been mentioned, Air Products would have 19 platforms supported by concrete pile foundations throughout the lake, including 200 by 75-foot control platforms that would tower 19 feet above the surface. The project also spans a critical wildlife management area. One of the jobs of the Army Corps of Engineers is to protect United States wetlands. Please do the right thing and deny the permit application. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Renee Harrell. After Ms. Harrell is Patricia Bailey.
Hello, my name is Renee Harrell. I'm from Livingston Parish. My address is 20655 Henry Road, Springfield, Louisiana, 70462. I'm here for a couple of reasons. Well, actually 3. Number one, I'm a small business owner, and we haven't really discussed that a lot at this meeting, but the people that have businesses on these waterways, it's already a seasonal business. When you bring something in like Air Products to do the things they're going to do to this lake and devastate these businesses, is going to be terrible for the community. Number 2, I am a homeowner. I live on Tickball River. There's already talk of people moving, not getting the values for their homes. These are people, or a lot of these are people that have worked all their lives to have waterfront property. And for something like this to happen to them is terrible. To live on the water is just something that some people have dreamed of all their lives, and this could be taken away from them. The third thing, I'm here for tourism. I work on the crew of Tickball River. I'm the chairman. I do that parade every year. I'm very proud of it. It's something that we give back to the Springfield Fire Department for their river operations. When something like this happens in Lake Maurepas, we're not going to have the tourism that we had before. So all these things should be considered. Small business, home values, tourism, all 3 are very, very important. I just pray that this permit is not granted. Thank you.
And after Ms. Bailey, Corinne Gibb.
Patricia Bailey, 12120 River Highlands Drive, San Juan, Louisiana, 70774. I'm originally from New Orleans. We got to San Juan for Katrina. I work for a lot of people that work for the Corps of Engineers, that y'all build all the levees that are now sinking into the ground, and y'all building 4 foot under seawater. I don't, government, y'all, these are wetlands. These are people's livelihoods. This is recreation. It's actually heartbreaking, for y'all even consider this.
I mean, because I'm like one of these ladies, I mean, I want you to live by that pipeline. I want you and your family to live by that pipeline. I can't even believe that y'all are entertaining this. I can't even believe it went this far. I can't believe that we're here today. Y'all all should be ashamed of yourself. That's right.
Thank you. Actions give Kathy Arena. Corinne Gibb. Corinne Gibb. Kathy Lorena. Kathy Lorena. Susan Jordan. All right, after Ms. Jordan is Daryl Malik-Wally.
My name is Susan Jordan. I'm a resident of Ascension Parish. I live at 16347 Highway 931. Why do I oppose carbon capture pipelines? Because they are dangerous. A rupture of the pipeline can remove oxygen from the air, causing suffocation to humans and animals. A pipeline rupture can release a large cloud of carbon dioxide, which is odorless and colorless, and causes disorientation, unconsciousness, and death. The CO2 can mix with water, rupture the pipeline, and form carbonic acid and hydrogen sulfide. Both of those are toxins. Here are the reasons I'm against this. Number one, CO2 pipelines are not safe. In order to transport carbon dioxide with a pipeline, it must be liquefied under very high pressure. CO2 pipelines can and do rupture and leak. When this occurs, an explosive plume of CO2 gas can erupt and travel a mile or more. Because it is heavier than air, the CO2 plume can suffocate all living beings and prevents gas-powered vehicles from starting, so that makes escape and rescue difficult or impossible. In February of 2020, a CO2 pipeline ruptured in a small town near Yazoo City, Mississippi. It required the evacuation of more than 200 people, and it put 45 people in the hospital. Reason 2, eminent domain. Louisiana authorities will grant eminent domain if they approve a CO2 pipeline. Landowners like myself will have no say over whether a company can build through their land. Reason 3, there are few regulations about CO2 pipelines. CO2 can travel large distances after a rupture. Pipelines are prone to fractures. It can kill people, animals, fish, and wildlife. Reason 4, it can damage topsoil and reduce crop yield. Crop yields were reduced 25% for soybeans and 15% for corn where pipelines were built. Reason 5, the construction of CO2 pipelines are on the rise. In August of 2022, the Biden administration raised the tax credits for carbon that is stored underground, causing companies to rush to build so they can make money at our risk. Reason 6, for landowners, it's all risk and no reward. Private corporations make lots of money from carbon capture through federal tax credits, while landowners take the risk with no rewards. Reason 7, carbon capture and storage has not worked. 80% of the projects that have attempted to commercialize carbon capture technology have failed. Why use taxpayer money to fund a CO2 pipeline system for technology that has such a poor track record? My family has lived here for generations. Please do not endanger the lives of the good people of Louisiana. Don't harm our environment and kill our wildlife. please do not agree to a carbon capture pipeline in Louisiana. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Mugwala Estefania Altman.
My name's Darryl Malakwiley. I represent the Sierra Club tonight. I'm a senior field organizer. I'm going to just limit myself to 4 points because of time limits. One, we believe that the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources is not living up to its mandate of the Louisiana Constitution, Article 9, where it talks about the natural resources of the state, including air, water, and the healthy, scenic, historic, and aesthetic qualities of the environment shall not, 20 pages together, shall be protected and conserved and replenished forever. The Corps of Engineers needs to do a programmatic EIS on all the ammonia and CO2 proposed carbon capture pipelines in the area. We also agree to number 2. Number 2, we request that DNR and the Corps of Engineers request that the applicant do health and safety modeling similar to what Earth Justice has just submitted on the impacts of CO2 leaks along the entire length of the CO2 pipeline. 3, in looking at the maps of this project on plate 2 and 3, we notice that the pipeline is proposed to go through the edge of the former Cleve River Superfund site. We have not seen any analysis, any data collected on that possible pipeline of possible contamination of the site. On maps 8 and 9, it will go by the waste field that is from the Atlantic aluminum site, which is very acidic, acid, alkaline, and might impact the pipeline. And 4, money. We've heard Air Products talk about million here, million there. Well, let's talk about why they really want to do this project. If they inject 5 million tons a year, and they get $85 a ton, that's $425 million a year, per year, that this company makes. They talk about, well, tangible, simple. Livingston and Tampa will get $100 million. Where's the other $325 million going? In the 25-year projected lifetime, they're going to make $10,625 million off of U.S. taxpayer money. I'm tired of corporations coming in here and getting our taxpayer money for projects that should not have even been considered because of risky and dangerous to the health and citizens of Louisiana.
Thank you. Estefania Altman. We have Malik Wiley, number 1, 4 pages. We'll receive that into evidence.
I have some too. Do you want me to bring them now?
All right, we're going to, Estefania Altman 1, 40 pages. We'll receive that for the record.
My name is Stephanie Altman. My address is 6119 Waterford Lane in Sorrento, Louisiana. I thank you for having this hearing. I'm actually located about a mile from the proposed facility that's being built, and I have to drive an hour to get here. So I really implore you guys to make a public hearing in every parish. A project of this magnitude requires enough visibility, so I would also ask that you display signage. I did want to thank also the council members from Livingston. Thank you so much for speaking up for your residents.
You live right in front of this facility, right? Because that's where I live. My son goes to the primary school, and I live all within a mile. So there's all these flares, there's noises, there's pollution, the traffic, the chemical smells, and now the constant fear of your family. Now imagine that your child is playing in a playground within feet of a pipeline, and the backdrop is a facility with flares and smut. The smut going directly into their lungs. This is not hypothetical. If you approve and grant this permit, this will be our reality. As an involved parent in the PTO of Sorrento Primary, I've seen these kids, over 660 kids. Of course, we're a Title I school, we're low funded, and we're trying to make these kids, we're trying to raise them up for success. This is not it. On infrastructure, I want to know that Sorrento Primary is located inside of a neighborhood. So if you look at a picture, there's a neighborhood, Sorrento Primary is right in the middle, and there's another subdivision being built. We all share one road. And you're telling me that we're supposed to trust them when we say that we can safely evacuate it? If you go to Sorrento Primary doing carpool, there's cars lined up. There's a very narrow road. You have to take turns going and leaving. So this would be shared. Think about that, over some 800 lives. And now, God forbid there is an explosion. This is just thinking if there is a leak. So we lack the resources. We're a very rural area, and we just don't have the infrastructure. It would be catastrophic for our children and for my neighbors. Air Products has not been transparent about their risk. The rep has stated that they're working with Ascension Pairs for training. I've seen Ascension Pairs take checks and pictures on their Facebook, so I can attest to that. But what can I tell you is the school board, the principals, the educators, the parents, we know nothing. They have not had any collaboration with the community. Will they be issuing masks for our children? Will they be issuing masks for myself? Are they going to let the bus drivers know what to do when the buses don't turn on because there's a leak? Again, these are real life consequences, and this will ruin our home value. I urge you, please deny this permit. Hold hearings in every city, in every parish. Answer all the questions. Give us the real data. I don't want to take their vague data saying, trust me, bro. No, I want to see the data. Show me the plume diagram. Show me how far will my neighborhood be affected when this leaks. So thank you so much. No child deserves poison in their playground, and no amount of economic development is going to fix that. Thank you.
Caleb Atwell. After Mr. Atwell, Chris Gaultier.
Caleb Atwell, live at 32695 Cypress Drive, Springfield, Louisiana. I'm going to be short, very, very short. Going on 30 years now, coming to these type of events and expressing opposition to the project, and it just continues to grow and grow and grow. 3 years later, you can still back room hundreds and hundreds of people here today, everyone opposing this project, and that's what I'm here to do. During these 3 years, I somehow ended up being elected as mayor of the town of Killian, and our residents there continue to oppose this project 3 years later, and that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Chris Gaultier.
Yes, my name is Chris Gaultier, 6940 Springwood Boulevard, Denham Springs, Louisiana.
And my next speaker is Denise Drago.
Okay. I didn't come with the idea of what I was going to say, because I was trying to listen to what I heard before I came here, primarily for those that were for this. I'm 100% against this for a number of reasons, and I want to just say something to the Army Corps of Engineers. I know this is your job. You're required to hear both sides. I understand that. You're federal, representing the federal government. We're local. This affects us. Now, I also want to mention, from Denham Springs, I was born in Baton Rouge. I grew up here. I'm a minister. I was in Oklahoma. I was serving on city council while I was there. So I started getting some ideas on political ones on. It's interesting, the ones that are for this are the ones that have something to gain.
Yeah.
Now, saying Livingston Parish and Tangier Bahia is going to get all
That's right. That's right.
How do you think it's going to help now? These existing pipeline corridors that were mentioned, are these utility right-of-ways? If so, this is for public utilities, not for a private corporation to make money off of our property.
Okay, come on.
Money to the government, but risk to the people. Money, money, money. The aesthetics and safety of future generations are not for sale. We are not for sale. Claims and promises do not guarantee results. We live here. We do not want your unproven hypothesis tested here. Earlier this year, I witnessed a fish kill in Manchac Pass. I was there. We was trying to figure out why these catfish were floating down Manchac Pass with this stuff on their gills. I think I got a better idea now.
Yes, I know that is.
Now, the idea that you can take carbon and bury it in the ground and think you're doing something to offset carbon emissions, it's like killing somebody and hiding it in the ground. You still kill them.
Okay, come on.
The way you fix the problem, and I have some carbon capture devices right here. I got them out from under the oak tree and on my neighbor's yard. And I've got instructions for use. Number 1, insert in the ground. 2, cover. 3, apply water. And 4, wait for results. You know how this works? They don't blow up.
Okay.
If it dies, you can plant another one.
Uh-huh.
And God controls this. He set this up.
All right.
And the federal government will help pay. There's programs to help pay to get plants put in the ground and reforest the areas. Why are we beating up ourselves and endangering our people for a ridiculous idea? You have a finite amount of space. What happens when you run out of these little pockets underground? Where are you going to put it then? Thank you.
All right.
Denise Drago. After Ms. Drago, suddenly
Hi, my name is Denise Drago, and I live in Ascension Parish. We have a 100-mile industrial corridor with so many harmful chemicals in our area already. They call our area Cancer Alley because the amount of people that get cancer. We do not need these high-pressure CO2 pipelines in our area and putting these pipelines under our watershed. And when they leak or erupt, they will poison our water too. Do you know there's a fault line running under the Mississippi River where they see our plans to send one of the lines under? That's real good with a fault line. There has been 76 eruptions or leaks of CO2 since 2010. That's 5.6 a year. Anyway, 67,000 barrels of CO2 released in the last 15 years. 54,000 of those came from pipelines. CO2 is colorless, odorless, and heavier than air. CO2 can travel undetected and at lethal concentrations over large distances. Carbon capture requires more energy to power the equipment and can increase emissions while continuing to spew health-harming pollutants into the atmosphere. CO2 is an asphyxiant that can kill humans and animals by sucking the oxygen out of the air. There are no guarantees that carbon sequestration will remain permanently stored underground. For the owners, the landowners, it's all risk and no rewards. My understanding, as President Trump has made a video, said carbon sequestration capture is a scam. It is ineffective. Look it up online. It's ineffective, and the U.S. already has the lowest emissions compared to the rest of the world. We also have much safer refining standards. I do not believe this very dangerous pipeline will help. I think using nature-based solutions are better, safer, and more effective approach. CO2 can be used as feedstock to create valuable products, building materials such as concrete, or as an enhanced oil recovery. I don't think anybody's talked about other uses for it, but it can be used for that. CO2 is used to euthanize livestock. CO2 can damage topsoil and reduce crops. By approving this pipeline, you would be putting all of our lives in great danger for no reason. It will not make a big difference in the 6% of the world CO2 that the United States emits. We're one of the lowest in this. This is a scam. Plus, running these dangerous pipelines in very populated areas next to elementary schools, subdivisions, and many homes is totally unnecessary and irresponsible. When does the dollar mean more than lives? Plus, CO2 regulations have been weakened by the Louisiana House of Representatives, which is not in the people's best interest. I also would like to ask that they hold another meeting in the affected parishes, as I have not heard or saw one article about the January 2025 meeting in Ascension. I consider myself well-informed, but the other day was the first that I had heard of these meetings. Most people still haven't heard of them. It's like secret meetings. You know, I hold my parish president and councilman from Ascension Parish responsible for approving this and selling the residents out to the My address is on there. I live in Prairieville, Louisiana, from Ascension Parish. She's going to bring it to you. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank y'all for letting us come and speak.
Okay. Pastor John Rowe. I'm sorry. Take that back. Drago one. And it's one page. Our next speaker is Sonia Pastor.
Hi, my name is Sonia Castron. I'm here from Ascension Parish. My address is 12437 Eloise Lane,
Sharon Levine is our next speaker.
Gonzales, Louisiana, 70737. I'm here to oppose CCS due to the fact it's dangerous and there are safer alternatives, like trees, for one. Also, I'm here because I want to be able to look at my grandson in the face when he can't go hunting and fishing like I've raised my boys all along. I've raised them to fish and hunt every place there is to go around Louisiana. And to think that we're actually going to gamble the ability to further do so in the future is, to me, mind-boggling. I mean, it's like, oh, is this real? Is this really real? I mean, I'm not a scientist. We all know the facts of the matter. But moving forward, after researching CCS, I'm totally against it. This possibility of a deadly destructive Green New Deal initiative, CCS, aka money grab, has already proven itself to be a dangerous idea. It has proven destruction in history. Mississippi, other places, it's just, we already know what it'll do, so. That being true, the question isn't what could go wrong. The true question we need to be concerned with is, when will it go wrong? When will it destroy our estuary and our livestock? And even worse, how many people will it medically harm, and how many will lose their life because of greed? Greed for who? Who's getting the payoff? That's my biggest question.
All right.
Whose money? Whose pockets are being
Come on. Somebody. All right.
To sum it up, no one has the right to sell our safety.
Sharon Levine. And after Sharon Levine is Chanel Levine.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharon, and I live at 8581 Highway 82, St. James, Louisiana, 70086. I'm the founder and executive director of Rice St. James, Louisiana. Isaiah 54 verses 7 19 reads, "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue
All right, yes, come on. Yes. Come on.
I want
Yes.
to thank the pastor for welcoming us into his church so that the community that could be impacted by this dangerous CO2 pipeline can have their voices heard. Also, Jeremiah chapter 2 verses 7 says, "And I brought you into a plentiful land to enjoy his fruits and his good things. But when you came in, you defiled my land and made my heritage an abomination." Industrial development in Council Alley has defiled our homes and made us sick. Rise St. James is a faith-based frontline environmental group that was founded when Formosa announced plans to build the largest plastic plant in the continent 2 miles from our home. In the 5th District of St. James, we are already overburdened with polluting industries. Since our success in fighting back Formosa, many people throughout the river parishes have joined in our fight for clean air and clean water. Rise St. James members are active fishers and boaters who use the Blind River and Lake Maurepas. From Sorrento all the way to our friends in St. John, residents have come to us concerned and worried about Air Products' irresponsible plans for their plant and CO2 pipeline. They do not want this project to move forward. In addition to the damage to wetlands, this pipeline poses danger to residents, local businesses, and even school children. I'm a retired school teacher. I do not want to see a CO2 pipeline built so close to where little children learn and play. In the case of a pipeline rupture, you cannot breathe air. CO2 is an asphyxiant. Your car will not start. How can they possibly evacuate in case of an emergency? I urge you to listen closely to the testimony tonight from the concerned residents and experts who are not in the pockets of industry. And you can ultimately get this permit.
Thank you. After this meeting, Laura Belshaw.
Good evening. My name is Chanel Levine, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Rise St. James. Rise opposes the Army Corps issuing a permit to Air Products for their facility for many reasons. Of course, a lot have already been stated. But we want to talk about the destruction of history that would take place if this plant was built. Air Products chose the former Orange Grove plantation for their plant, which has a rich and documented history. The last slave owner of the plantation enslaved over 1,000 men, women, and children, many of whom were held in bondage at Orange Grove. The Orange Grove Cemetery holds the remains of at least 268 people, which are mostly in unmarked graves. It was gut-wrenching for me to learn about the cemetery, but now that I know, I'm standing up against allowing Air Products to further desecrate the site of so much human suffering. It is an injustice that polluting industry can both destroy Black cemeteries and sicken the surrounding Black communities. It's an injustice to us living today and to the memories of the people enslaved at Orange Grove. Rise is here tonight to represent living descendants of Orange Grove, to preserve their ancestors' history and ensure that all graves on the site, not just the Orange Grove Cemetery, are protected from destruction. There are many places to build an industrial facility, but there is no replacing the history of the Orange Grove plantation. We ask the Army Corps to reject this application. Thank you.
Laura Belshaw. After Ms. Belshaw, Rosemary Green.
Good evening. I'm Lauren Gottschall, an attorney with Earthworks.
Sierra Club, Lake Norcross Preservation Society, Concerned Citizens of St. John, and Earthworks. I wanted to briefly respond to the statements made earlier today by the Air Products representative from Houston. First, he said that Air Products will capture up to 90% of carbon dioxide produced. That is not true, according to Air Products itself. On September 29th, Air Products submitted a new air permit application to the state. It did so because it realized that up to 25% of the time it will not be able to capture its CO2 emissions. Those emissions will be vented directly into the atmosphere. Air Products estimates that it will actually emit 2.2 million tons per year of carbon dioxide, thus making it a major CO2 emitter in Ascension Parish, while it simultaneously markets its products as blue or clean. He also said that Air Products will protect the wetlands by purchasing mitigation wetlands acreage on the north shore of Lake Norcross, and it would protect it with a conservation easement. That is not a meaningful protection. Air Products itself brokered a deal to run its pipeline directly through a conservation easement, the Norcross Swamp Conservation Easement. Air Products knows that a conservation easement is not necessarily enough to protect the wetlands from another pipeline development, because if it were, this project itself through a conservation easement would be impossible. We have previously submitted detailed comments on both the coastal use permit and the federal Clean Water Act permit applications, detailing the legal requirements that we feel these permit applications fail to meet. We re-urge and reiterate all those comments, including the comments you've heard tonight from one of our experts, Nora Burris, and our upcoming supplemental comment by Dr. John Corbin as to the explosive risk. We urge the Corps and the state to deny these permit applications. Thank you for your time.
Scott Eustace.
Good evening. My name is Rosemary Green. I live at 243 4th Street, San Rose, Louisiana, St. Charles Parish. I've come here filled with questions, and I look around and I hear everybody's testimony, their complaints, their concerns, and then I see you guys. Thank you for being here and listening to us and for our cry. We are crying out to you guys. You don't know what it's like to live in a house that isn't safe. See, I live on the fence line in San Rose, right there by IMTT. And I'm sure that you guys are already aware of our fight. And it's been a rough one. They want us to trust them, but we can't. This is a corrupt system. It's corrupt. And these are human beings that we're dealing with. This is lives you're dealing with. Our children. See, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother even. And I would like to see my children live a long, healthy life. They deserve that. They actually deserve that. And right now, before I run out of time, you guys, because I've been praying and asking the Father to give me wisdom, give me something to say to you guys that you could take home and at least think about. I came across this, and it's a surprise. It was a surprise to me. It's about things that's happening here in Louisiana. Did y'all know that Louisiana has around 4,600 to 4,700 documented orphan oil and gas wells? But the exact number is a moving target that grows as inactive wells become orphaned. So they're constantly having wells tap one, and another one pops up. Or maybe 2, 3, 4, or more. It says, listen to this. But the exact number is a moving target that grows as inactive wells become. Is my time up? All right, can I finish? Thank you, God, thank you. But the exact number is a moving target that grows as inactive wells become orphaned. The term chemical wells is not used by the state. The wells are categorized as abandoned oil and gas wells that are often leaky and pose environmental hazards. Orphan wells, the number of orphaned oil and gas wells in Louisiana is documented to be between 4,600 to 4,700, with the total number considered to be higher and increasing. Orphan wells definition: these are wells that have been abandoned with no financially viable owner to take responsibility for plugging and cleanup. Environmental hazard: these abandoned wells can leak methane, contaminate groundwater, and reduce property values. Future utility wells: the state also has approximately 17,000 non-productive wells that have future utility status, meaning they are not considered orphan, but could become so if they remain inactive. Now, did y'all also know that they only pay like $500 for these wells? Whoever owned them, only $300 in some cases. Did y'all know that?
Did you to wrap it up?
Yes, sir. Thank you. But lastly, we've got to do something. We've got to collectively do something. And coming to these meetings is great, but we need to do something a little bit more, like start at the bottom. Yeah, all these people that we elect in the office, in our parishes, to run our parishes, we've got to know what's going on with them. We cannot allow them to just run our parishes, and we're at home. Most of us are at home by the time we hear about what's going on. All the paperwork is already done. So my suggestion, to shut this down, my suggestion to you guys, please do something about the wells that we already have that are orphaned. They're polluting our air and our water. Do something about that instead of continuing this fracking, because that makes it even worse. You're adding to the situation. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to remind everyone that there is the express lane option, and if you would like to leave extended comments, you're welcome to go and do that at any time. Mr. Houston.
Good evening. Thank you. Scott Eustace, Community Science Director for Healthy Gulf. Healthy Gulf is a 30-year-old environmental nonprofit dedicated to protecting our land and water, and prevention of the long history of the overexploitation of our resources. It's not wrong, and the issue of the inactive and orphan wells on state leases in particular is a big problem, where we see neglect of our well population. Some wells my grandfather drilled in Clackamas and Carolina. God willing, I'll be out there tomorrow in Quarantine Bay on injection wells and producing wells. The operator, Cox operator, just walked away from. They're actively leaking explosive gases and oil into the air and water.
That's right.
And there's no enforcement. The department, unfortunately, doesn't even have a plugging team to go out and rectify the situation in Quarantine Bay. And this is germane because this is a pattern we see on state leases. I don't know if it's better on the private leases, but on the state leases and state water bottles, we see this chronic neglect from wells that were drilled 40 years ago. So I do have to channel Granddad a little bit and say, moving forward with drilling in Lake Maurepas, we expect neglect. We will need oil workers forever to care for our groundwater What we don't need are these little companies that cut and run. And here Air Products has cut and run and said they're not going to operate the pipeline in the wells. How is this application even moving forward? It would be enough. They promised October 2022 at the Lions Club in Ponchatoula to have an environmental impact statement. It's been over 3 years, and instead we get this incomplete application. And we'll submit written comments, but the alternatives need to consider not even having coastal zone impacts or wetland impacts, and even using the existing network with no wetland impacts. We've seen that with other ammonia plant proposals. CF and Denbury have changed their pipelines to use existing networks. We've seen the H2 and CO2 pipelines move closer to the Sorrento Primary School than the applications 2 years ago. That's crazy. The H2 pipeline is within the housing and urban development exclusion distances. That's a fire pipeline rather than an asphyxiant pipeline, but that one is also too close. It needs to be moved back to the west, away from the highway, away from the school. A gentleman talked about we want to see platforms go to the Gulf, and it's sadly true. We've got a lot of platforms, and we don't want a pipeline valve on a platform right at the entrance to the, as you come out of the reserve relief canal into the lake. There's going to be this highly dangerous CO2 pipeline valve right there. Okay, you are not welcome sign. And it's the indirect pipeline, the indirect impacts of wetlands from the totally new pipeline right away along the reserve relief canal. Those impacts have not even been assessed, so we don't need to do it, and so I urge you to reject the application.
Justin Cray. After Justin Cray, Amy Clarice Harrell.
Good evening. My name is Justin Craig, address 2433 Gonzaga Street, New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm a cartographer and planner. I made the map exhibits in the hallway, which I would encourage you to study. There are many specific problems with the layout configuration of this proposal. The primary one, I guess I would like to highlight for the Army Corps, since it is also your purview to understand the cost-benefits assessment of the West Shore Pontchartrain levee, which is under construction, a $3.7 billion levee paid for by the public purse, is actually potentially compromised by this pipeline, which will be less than almost 300 feet from the levee toe, and creating a new channel, inviting storm surge right up to the foot of the levee. I think that there's a lot of conversation around, money. I think that one of the things that absolutely should be included if you guys were to do it is cost-benefits analysis, including all of the costs to the infrastructure being built, into the ecosystem loss, the loss of habitat, the impact of fisheries, damage to recreational resources of Lake Maurepas, real estate impacts, the violation of permanent conservation easements. Anyhow, you get the idea. One thing which is not on the maps I created, which I would encourage you strongly to consider, is the change in the regulatory landscape and enforcement landscape here in Louisiana. We have very little assurance that any new wetlands will be created as CIPRA steps back from any meaningful wetland restoration or creation. All over the state, projects are being canceled. The Bay Area Sediment Diversion has been canceled. There is really no guarantee that we're going to be able to get new wetlands. So the only assurance we have is to protect the wetlands we have. And this hearing, as I understand it, is to evaluate those impacts. We must protect the wetlands in the conservation area of Lake Maurepas. Also, in the wake of the Smitty's attack in Roseland, Louisiana, it has been shown that the DNR and DEQ are essentially fully incapable of meaningful emergency response. Nor are they communicating honestly and openly, providing misleading statements to the public about health impacts, which are clearly evident to the Chipmunk River and in Tangipahoa Parish. The watershed is already impacted. It is an egregious violation. Army Corps is honestly our best and only hope at stopping this project. Your agency has the power to stop this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. After Ms. Carol, Audrey Evans. Amy Clarice Harrell. Amy Clarice Harrell. Audrey Evans. Audrey Evans. Audrey Evans. Connie. Finn. I'm stuck. Ponchatoula, Louisiana. Parker Road, Ponchatoula. She's on her way. You're going to have to spell your name out for us, please. F?
F is in Frank. Can't say too much, just want to say support their week. Kim Coates, all I do is pray for intelligent leaders. You got one right there. Everybody said everything pretty much that I would say. It's a horrible situation. I feel like we're living in a third world state. As far as this rescue that's going on, the CO2 is released. We had a 100-car pileup on I-10. My sister and I sat there for 2.5 hours. They had to drink water out of used water bottle. So I don't know, that's just 100 cars. I don't know what you're going to do if this CO2 is dispersed everywhere. Just happen to be in the respiratory field. So I do know how important it is to have oxygen, and that's it. So, just telling y'all, people that are important, Rise, Sierra Club, Kim Coates, they're weak. They're not paying me to say this. I'm just following the intelligent people in the room. And thank you.
Jack Green. After Jack Green, Daniel Richards.
Hey y'all, good evening. My name is Jack Green. I live in Metairie. I work in different parishes. I am a lifelong Louisiana resident and campaign manager with Rise St. James. For well over a year now, Rise, alongside a number of other organizations who have spoken, have been working to inform residents within the river parishes on the facts and risks posed by Air Products' proposed blue ammonia facility and carbon capture scheme. Where we believe local officials in Ascension, St. John, and St. James have fallen short, we've attempted to bridge the gap of information, speaking with people of diverse perspectives and viewpoints from neighborhoods in Sorrento to those living and working along the Blind River in St. James, down to folks here in St. John. And I have to make a point to commend the excellent representation of the folks in the Eastern Parish and the Lakeside. I really wish our officials were as considerate. Contrary to what some may say about us, we do not outright oppose any and all industries. Rather, we work to inform people of the realities of proposed developments, empower them to decide for themselves whether or not a new development is for them, and if necessary, fight to affirm their right to clean air and clean water. In this case, it is clear to us that this proposed project is absolutely not in the best interest of the people nor the environment. There is no need for me to speak on their behalf, as you have and will continue to hear the testimonies of everyday Louisianians concerned with their safety and the future in light of the dangers of this project. But there is one issue I would like to highlight for the agencies considering this permit. We collectively speak often about balancing a healthy environment with economic development. Yes, we want clean air and water, but Louisianians also at odds with both the environment and jobs. Many people come from far away to enjoy these pristine wetlands, and as a result, frequent local restaurants, local bait shops, and other local businesses, infusing the local economy and tax base of the river parishes. This would be lost with the development of this dangerous project. Additionally, as it has been noted, there are dozens of commercial fishermen and recreational fishermen who have been here to speak against this, and for every one of them, there's about another 100 who aren't here to speak about this. As not only a member of RISE, but also as someone whose family has lived, worked, and fished along the coast of Louisiana for generations, I plead with the agencies considering this permit. Do not sell off something so precious as our last untouched wetlands for something so trivial as a greenwashing tax scam like carbon capture. I oppose this project as always. I urge you to reject these permits. And one other last thing, I've been coming to meetings like this since before I could drink, vote, or drive a car. And I have never been to a permit that is so full of people from different political backgrounds and livelihoods and ways of life that are so opposed to this project. And I genuinely think that speaks to what a bad plan this is. I really urge y'all to reject this
Thank you, Daniel Richards. Dr. Daniel Richards will tell you guys. Daniel Richards. Daniel Richards. Latanya Dykes. Latanya Dykes. Latanya Dykes. Lauren Jewett. Lauren A. Jewett. Lauren Jewett. Okay. After Ms. Jewett is Jim Norrid.
Good evening, Lauren Jewett, address 604 Sadie Avenue, Metairie, Louisiana, 7003. I am here in opposition to the carbon capture project proposed by Air Products. I am a special education teacher in Louisiana. I actually began my teaching career right here in St. John the Baptist Parish, both in LaPlace and Reserve. In fact, the school that I taught at in Reserve, Fifth Ward Elementary, closed at the end of last school year after a lawsuit involving the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which cited health risks due to the school's proximity to the Denka chemical plant. I come here before you tonight as someone who fights fiercely for Louisiana, for its natural and ecological beauty, and for most importantly, our children. Because our children of this state are whom I have dedicated my entire career to for the past 17 years. And it is the children and the families who are the ones who will bear the environmental and health burdens of the carbon capture project. Projects like this have shown to pose significant health risks to children. These health risks include asthma and other respiratory conditions, cancer, developmental issues, and psychological stress and anxiety. This project will make it less safe for our children to live and play in their communities. And it will make it less safe at a time when we have barriers to healthcare access for many of our families. All we need to ask ourselves with the impact of this kind of project is, and how are the children? If the answer is anything, but all of the children are well, then we have lost our moral imperative. I've listened to many people here tonight pose multiple questions that don't seem to have clear answers. I've listened to state representatives, elected officials, community groups, and residents urge for us to have a comprehensive environmental impact study of this project. Our community members deserve to know holistically what would happen as a result of this project. Our children and everyone in our state deserve clean air to breathe. We deserve clean soil to plant our flowers, our fruits, our vegetables. We deserve a lake for recreation and fishing, which are important to our state's way of life. We deserve clean water to drink, and we deserve to know that our clean air our clean water, our lake, and our children and our health are 100% not for sale. And to the woman who spoke earlier about paying attention to who we elect to office, I am running for Congress in Louisiana's 1st District, and that part of Sorrento falls in this district, and I'm committed to our kids' future and our future in Louisiana, and so I urge that you vote no on moving forward with this project. Thank you.
Jim Norrie. Jim Norrie. Jim Norrie. Leslie Ann Kirkland. Leslie Ann Kirkland. Okay, after Leslie Ann Kirkland is Elizabeth Soyshak.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Leslie Ann Kirkland. I'm from the city of Blackman and Earthworks Parish. Parish is split by the river. We've got 8 plants on one side and 18 on the other, so I know a little bit about pollution. I wanted to add something in the record. When the man asked everybody who was against this to raise their hands, almost everybody in the entire room did, and there were an estimated 264 people here at that time. Please don't do this. This is insanity. This is a disaster. This is a map of Lake Morrill, which looks like it has been completely hijacked and taken over by industry. I don't see any recreation on this one. But some ladies outside that said that some paperwork that we signed out there was going to go to the Corps and DNR. Just a quick little story about DNR. We're reluctant to put any faith in them. I know that we have a Superfund site in Earthworks Parish. When you do these injection wells, there's a certain area at which the waste is allowed to escape. There are other areas where they don't want it to go out into that strata. And I don't remember the exact depth. Let's say that they were allowed to put waste out at 700 feet. At 500 feet, they discovered a leak. And I don't have the exact numbers of the depths, but this actually happened. The DNR simply rewrote their permit to allow them to put waste out in the wrong zone. Because, well, that speaks for itself. I had to pass Donaldsonville to get here today. It breaks my heart when I see that school because it's less than an air mile from 2 or 3 huge plants. And we're talking about having a school too close to something again. And the Maurepas Swamp Wildlife Management Area, which is below. I mean, this area is a recreational treasure. Nature counts, beauty counts. This is ugly. I'm also an animal rights person, so I have to speak up for everything that's alive in that area. That's including the fish and the snails and everything. Accidents happen. We see that with Smitty's poison coming down into Lake Pontchartrain. I mean, that is an unbelievable disaster. So here we are on the little lake next door, considering ruining that too. It's a horrible idea. You really need to say no to this. I read something in the paperwork that said that if this was going to happen, that it was going to be the largest carbon dioxide sequestration facility in the world. So that's a potential for the largest disaster in the world too. In my experience in Iberville Parish, industry proposes some crazy stuff. If the powers that be let them do these things, they ignore the risk, they roll the dice, and they plead bankruptcy when the disaster happens. Please say no.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Soytak, and I am at 3043 Ponce de Leon Street in New Orleans, 70119. I'd like to first respond to the gentleman from the Greater New Orleans, Inc. He spoke in support tonight, and in response, I'd like to say that actually, for your information, the New Orleans City Council has banned carbon capture and waste injection in Orleans Parish. I'm here as a representative of Climate Reality Project, Greater New Orleans chapter, and also the Greater New Orleans Interfaith Climate Coalition. We don't support carbon capture and waste injection for several reasons. The primary one being the danger to the people of Louisiana, who will be in the path of the CO2 pipelines. I ask you to put yourself in the place of the parents of the children who attend the schools near this proposed pipeline. What responsibility do we have to those children? There are scientists who tell us that the geology of Louisiana is not suitable to store the carbon waste at super high pressure. And I urge you to pay attention to their warnings and look at their studies. Carbon capture technology has collected at most 30% of CO2 from plants. Why on earth would we put people of Louisiana in danger and gamble on a technology that isn't really going to do what Air Products promises? And lastly, because this hearing actually regards a wetlands permit and a coastal use permit, I must ask what is happening to the sportsman's paradise. Approving this project will sacrifice more of the gorgeous natural beauty of Louisiana, which sadly and tragically continues to shrink in the wake of ever-expanding industry. When will the paradise take priority again? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Deborah Blunt. After Deborah Blunt would be Michelle Johnson. Deborah Blunt.
My name is Deborah Blunt. I live at 1920 Blunt Farms Road, Livingston, Louisiana, in Livingston Parish. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and speak. Thank you to our representatives, senators, and councilmen who have represented us here, and to all the citizens present tonight, and to those who have spoken out against this project. Presented is clean energy, but there is nothing clean about pumping the dirty parts, the CO2, through our wetlands and communities and under our lake. Regardless of resolutions against it. Excuse me. I'm thankful that our Livingston Parish Council is one of those groups. They know that we don't care how many jobs are created, how much tax revenue is produced, or how much money Air Products has contributed to local causes if their project is putting the lives of our children and grandchildren at risk, which it is. This Air Products project has no benefit for the people of Louisiana. There is no consensus that CCS will save us from climate change. We don't want environmental damage. We don't want the lives of our families put to risk. We don't want Air Products jobs and money. We don't want our property values to go down, and we don't want eminent domain for CO2 pipelines. My request tonight for the benefit of the people of Louisiana is that you deny the permit for this Air Products project and for all CO2 pipelines and all CCS wells in South Louisiana. Thank you.
Michelle Johnson. After Michelle Johnson, Albert Kennard Davison.
Hi, my name is Michelle Johnson. I'm a resident of New Orleans, 70130. Lake Marquardt is connected to Lake Pontchartrain, so whatever happens here affects me too in New Orleans. This is all of our fight. And I want to quickly touch on that economic development. The construction jobs are going to leave. The biggest winners will be the corporations that team up to become large joint venture CMARs, the larger regional subcontractors. The parish might see a bump in the properties and sales tax, but not property taxes to increase their budgets and improve local infrastructure. The local construction jobs for people will end and will likely have at best maybe 50% local workforce, and the local citizens aren't even going to see the impact. The jobs that remain, no one has mentioned the average salary after removing the site management team. I bet the disparity between shift workers and salaried management is quite high, and there's no guarantee they're going to hire from the local community for the well-paying jobs, okay? We cannot let economic development at the expense of people drive our decision-making. We cannot continue with profits for out-of-state and corporate shareholders at the expense of our neighbors, our cousins, our friends, and the people in Louisiana. We cannot let innovation be the excuse to avoid elimination of carbon emissions. Existing carbon capture industrial sites need at best 30 to 40% capture. CCS projects across the world in Canada, joint ventures in Australia, the US Petronova coal plant, all implemented carbon capture with goals of 90%, but they all fall short. They get 30 to 40% capture. It's not a magic bullet, and we should not treat it as such. Not only does it not reach demonstrable targets, but it also releases pollution in the process of attempting to remove pollution from the air. Direct air capture plants are not small. They require giant fans that will loudly emit intense heat. In short, carbon capture is a scam being sold to allow corporations to continue polluting. A pipeline rupture in the lake could lead to the release of large volumes of high-pressure carbon dioxide in the lake, and depending on the magnitude of the rupture, could be detrimental to aquatic organisms and harm water quality. A rupture on land would affect school children and residents within its pathway. We don't have to guess what would happen. We know. Sarnia, Mississippi, February 22nd, 2020. Clear day. After weeks of rain, Demetrius Devers Burns, his brother, cousin, decided to go fishing. They heard a loud boom, explosion. He gathered their young grandchildren to see what was going on. He said they didn't come. 10 minutes, I knew they would have been here in 5 minutes. They didn't come. Little did they know her sons and nephews were just down the road in Cadillac, unconscious victims of a mass poisoning from a carbon dioxide pipeline rupture. As the carbon dioxide moved through the rural community, more than 200 people evacuated and at least 45 people were hospitalized. Cars stopped working, hobbling emergency response. People lay on the ground, shaky and unable to breathe. First responders didn't know what was going on. Quote, it looked like we were going through the zombie apocalypse, says Jack Blomham, Emergency Director for Yazoo County. Again, Air Products has provided no information on what could happen should there be a major carbon dioxide release or slowly into the lake over time. I urge you to say no.
Albert Kennard Davidson, Mr. Davidson, Kimbrell and Jean Kyreth.
Good evening. Excuse me. My throat's got dry from sitting here a while. Hey, thank you for
for my representatives. I'm from Livingston Parish. I live at 17363 Davidson Road in Springfield, Louisiana. And I'm opposed to the carbon capture under Lake Marlboro, and I'm opposed to permitting. I live on property that was the Spanish landgrab in 1798. My family moved there in 1805. It's a half a mile from the mouth of Amy River and Marlboro. I've had a commercial fishing license since the 1970s. I was raised on the lake. Saw a lot of beautiful mornings here. 1972, on the same call. I spent 38 years in the Army. I have grandchildren and children that live on Davidson Road. Same property my family's been on since 1805. I told you about being an Army. I've been all over the world. Seen some ugly places. Seen beautiful places. None more beautiful than that lake. None. And it would be a shame if my children and your children and their children couldn't see the way our ancestors did many years ago. Maybe a couple of you men in the back of the room that spoke in support of it earlier. What I didn't mention is my property extends to the shoreline of Lake Marlboro. I have acreage on the shoreline of Lake Marlboro. I tell you what, I got a deal for you men that spoke up in support of it, and the Air Products folks. I got acreage. I promise you, I'll give each of you an acre if you'll move your family on my property, which will be your property, on the shoreline of Lake Marlboro. If you feel really that good about it. Amen.
Good evening, my name is Kimbrell Eugene Trett. Trett is spelled K-Y-E-R-E-H. Yes. Thank you all for hearing what the residents and the people of Louisiana has to say about this permit. I am in opposition of this permit. I am a resident of St. Charles Parish. My address is 333 2nd Street, St. Rose, Louisiana, 70087. Presently, my community and we are inundated by chemicals from INTT, the International Latex Tank Terminal, who's partnering with a blue ammonia plant, St. Charles Clean Fuse, quote unquote, to clean, that's also proposing or trying to get a permit to sequester carbon dioxide. So for that reason, I am opposing carbon capture storage in the parishes that are of concern. I am in opposition because residents have expressed, just like those of us in St. Charles Parish and St. Rose, that they are afraid of the adverse impacts of having carbon capture storage in their communities and inject it in Lake Marquardt. I have a daughter who traveled over Lake Marquardt on a regular basis, and we're already traumatized by the chemicals that enter our homes. We're already traumatized by the threats of this blue ammonia plant with carbon capture storage. So our residents of St. Rose, St. Charles Parish, Ascension Parish, St. John, Livingston, and all the parishes that are affected by this CCS, the threat of CCS, we're concerned about our quality of life. So I am asking that you deny this permit. I am asking that you protect our wetlands and our people and our quality of life. The land use permit, we're asking that you deny that as well. And I'm also asking that you pause all permits that's related to carbon capture storage and sequestration in the state of Louisiana.
I think that's all I have to say.
Eliza Eugene. Eliza Eugene. Gregory Stafford. Swafford. Gregory Swafford.
Gregory Nigel Swafford, 935 Gregory Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70112. Southeast Louisiana organizer at Healthy Gulf. In just this past year, Louisiana has faced an alarming series of environmental disasters. Garden Island Bay, an uncontrolled discharge of crude oil and natural gas from Spectrum Opco's